Of late, the Private Security Industry Regulatory Authority, or CIRA, has granted the Red Ants conditional permission to trade during its suspension. But the company may not carry out evictions or demolitions pending the finalization of the appeal process. Now, CIRA suspended the relocation and eviction services company following a number of misconduct reports. Here to tell us more is Advocate Linda Mbana from the Private Security Industry Regulatory Authority. Advocate, good morning.
Good morning.
And thanks for your time. So tell us about these conditional the permission that you've given them to operate conditionally. In the first place, why are they allowed to go back to work on any level before we get to what the conditions are?
Okay, maybe before we get there, let me first indicate that after we suspended them, they then applied and appealed to the minister because they were not happy of the decision that we took as CIRA to suspend them. As we are talking now, the minister is in the process of putting together the appeal committee that will look and decide about the appeal that they lodged. So subsequent to that, the Red Ants then wrote to the director of CIRA asking for permission to trade whilst they are on suspension. Well, that is done in terms of our Act, Section 22 of our Act permits that. When they then applied, then the director looked into the pros and cons and decided that because they are not only rendering eviction as well as demolition services, but also are busy with other sectors in the industry, then they can be allowed to deal with those other sectors. For example, guarding services, which currently we are not having any complaints regarding those. So that conditional permission that has been granted to them is to only deal with other sectors, but not eviction as well as demolition, because currently we are busy with numerous complaints regarding such.
Okay, so it is mostly around those evictions and demolitions. So are you able, and I know that you've done investigating some, you're in the process of others as well, are you able to tell us the nature of some of these complaints? What are the Red Ants actually accused of in terms of their conduct?
In the process of evicting, there were lots of casualties, some alleged to have been beaten up, others, their property have been stolen, money and other things. Other people actually lost lives in the process. So human rights were really violated. That is what we were investigating. I must indicate that the three that took place in 2017 in Lenasia, South, Tembisa, as well as Avora Park, we're done investigating those, and currently they are in the hearing stages. The last two that led to the suspension being Alexandra as well as Ramaphosa settlement. We've done as well investigating that. We are just waiting for the final stages now, which mean that we are in the process of appointing a panel that will sit and preside over during the inquiry hearing.
Okay, so who have you been hearing from during these investigations? Is it the residents themselves? And how do you pinpoint who from the Red Ants was involved in this? It could be individuals who've committed this, of their own, or is that the policy of the Red Ants to behave in that way?
Okay, we got complaints from people, residents of the places that I've mentioned. People came to us, others wrote to us, others called, people that were involved during the evictions. So we've got such complaints, and we then investigated. We were given names by others who managed to get the names during the evictions. Those that we couldn't get the names, we managed to speak with the company, because one way or another, in terms of our policies, the company is supposed to ensure that the evictions are done in an orderly and legal manner.
So who is in charge of the Red Ants? Who owns the body, or who runs it?
It's the Red Ants has 6 directors that are currently involved, that are registered with us as CIRA. So they are the ones that are responsible for any eventuality.
Okay, so they are a private firm and they're called upon, or the city will call upon them in certain instances. Would it be the city? Would it be landlords? Who's allowed to use the Red Ants?
Because they are a security service provider, they can be utilized by anyone who can afford to utilize them, being the city, being individuals.
So in these instances, say if, for example, they are found guilty and of what the complaints are against them, are you just going to hold the Red Ants responsible, accountable, or the people who've hired them as well?
The Red Ants, because we are a regulator and we only regulate the industry being the security service providers, so we only hold the Red Ants who are registered with us accountable. Someone else on another platform will take care of the city.
Okay, so once your findings have been made clear, the people who've laid the complaints can decide whether they want to take this further. When will we know the outcomes of all of these investigations?
Let me start with the one of the appeal.
Yeah.
The appeal may be finalized in a month or 2 months' time from now. And the hearing stages that I spoke about, we are waiting for the presiding officer, because we appoint an independent body from outside to hear our internal processes. So we will depend on him to give us the outcome of the hearings.
And advocate, it's not the first time we're hearing this about the red ants. For years and years and years, there have been complaints about the conduct of the red ants and how they actually carry out these evictions and demolitions. It's been a long time coming, if I were to put it that way. And are you going to make sure now with this process that if there is any wrongdoing found, that this will be the end of it? And how will you make sure?
Yes. Let me also put on record that as much as this is coming a long way, our responsibility as the regulator is to make sure that we investigate thoroughly, is to make sure that we don't leave any stone unturned, is to ensure that we do everything with a fine-tooth comb. So that's what we actually did. We investigated and we finalized the investigation, hence it took a long time. Now that we are done, we will make sure that whatever outcome is implemented.
And will that outcome include compensation for those who've suffered at the hands of the red ants in certain instances?
Compensation won't be from our side as the regulator.
Will you recommend or suggest from your side?
Yes, we are participating with the Human Rights Commission, and they are busy with that. So when they need our assistance and our involvement, we'll make sure that we participate and assist them with whatever information that they are looking for.
And what would be the possible penalties or punishment for the red ants if the outcomes are not in their favour?
It will depend again on the presiding officer. 1, they can be fined. 2, their license can be withdrawn.
Okay, but for now they're able to just do guarding services.
But for now, they can only do guarding. Let me also indicate that if they can prove to us that there is a task or an operation that has been in the pipeline that had been scheduled a long time ago, and not only scheduled a long time ago, they can prove to us that it cannot be postponed or rescheduled. And not only that, they can prove that that operation is of a high degree of importance. Then they can apply to CIRA and state that, and we will look into the merits of the case and decide whether they are the last company standing. Remember, they are not the only company.
I was just going to ask, what about others who carry out?
They are not the only company that is supposed to do evictions. So we will double check everything and check if they are the only company or they are the only company with such expertise. Then we will sit down with them. They must prove to us that they have put measures in place, that whenever they are doing such operation whilst they are on suspension, they will be doing that in a legally and orderly manner. And we'll ensure that we're also there as CIRA to make sure that everything is done orderly. But they won't just come to us and create urgency and say there's something that has been in the pipeline. As a result, we cannot postpone it. We will double check with a fine-tooth comb that indeed they were the last people standing.
Is this for an eviction or demolition then?
Eviction and demolition.
If they have to do it in this time.
If they have to do it in this time.
Okay, and just out of curiosity, are there any other security companies that you receive similar complaints about, or is it just the red ants?
It's only just the red ants.
I wonder why.
Yes.
Okay, well, thanks for your time.
Thank you,
thanks for that. That's Advocate Linda Mbane. She's from the Private Security Industry Regulatory Authority. That's CIRA, investigating the red ants and their conduct at the moment.